Dr. Shaw here, and welcome to another episode of Teaching Humanity Remotely. I'm really excited about this episode because this experience that I'm going to be sharing gave me a fantastic opportunity to see myself walking my walk and talking my talk, and also gave me an understanding of when a vision can be followed through more easily. So there's this saying of not taking anything personally, and I've had this experience before that I think I've shared with you, which is that it's easy to not take something personally that doesn't mean anything to you. So I had this experience this week where somebody accused me of something, and I often say during a podcast that it's really important to not defend oneself, because when you defend yourself, as I reviewed before, it immediately indicates that I'm not paying attention to what's being said to me. I'm putting all of my energy in how I could defend my position, which then really illustrates to me that I think I'm right. And what I'm defending, the person who's giving me an opportunity to see something in a different way, a different perception, a perception that the other person has, which is real for them, I'm negating completely by defending my point of view. And so I really work at not defending myself. If something comes up with me and my partner and I listen and I own it. I own it. I know when I'm being bitchy. I know when I'm being difficult. I know when I'm not being friendly. I know when I am being friendly. And if something comes up with my partner and I really disagree, instead of defending myself, what I'll say is, I understand that's how you see it. Thank you for letting me know that that's how you see it, because that's true for them. So defending myself, I don't do, because it just wastes energy. It disrespects the person who is saying what they're saying, their perception, and it's showing that I'm not paying attention to what's being said to me, and I'm putting all my energy into my point of view. And, why hold on to your point of view? Sometimes you just got to give it up or just keep it to yourself. And I really equate it, like I've said before, to the student who you call on one student and then another student has his or her hand up. And as soon as I would see that, I would say to the student who was raising their hand, I'd say, I know right now that you are not thinking about what this student's going to be saying. You're only thinking about what's in your head. But I called on somebody else. So we're going to hear from this other person. And if you then want to say what you want to say, raise your hand and I'll call on you. To really let the person know that it's this other person's time to talk. And I don't want anyone to not be paying attention to what that person has to say. And that's why I don't defend myself. So a person tells me something and I see it in such a different point of view. And all I say to the person, this was through a text, and all I text back is I say, I got it. Thank you for sharing. I don't agree with the person's point of view, but I don't need to put any energy into it. I don't need to convince the person differently. I hear what the person was saying, and I thank the person for sharing. I was so glad that I didn't waste energy trying to defend my position. I felt very happy that, look, I'm walking my walk, I'm talking my talk. I can't wait to share this in my next podcast to show this can be done. But I had a little learning lesson that I want to share so you can share it with your children, because I think it's very, very important. I must admit that it was incredibly easy to not defend myself in this circumstance. And one reason was the person who voiced the comment or complaint wasn't really in my inner circle. It is harder when there's someone who is in your inner circle. And I wanted to make that distinction. And I wanted to also share that it's very important for children. And I think grown-ups can really articulate this and model it for them. And this is why this, I think, is an important podcast. It's important for children to know that not everyone's the same. When we have a best friend, why do we say best? It means that somehow that friendship is different. It's more special. It's a little more sacred. There's something about the connection, and we can feel that. And we can have a few different really close friends or best friends that give us different things. Maybe one best friend I do a lot of sports with, and that's our common ground. Maybe one best friend I like to dance with, and that's our common ground. So I think there could be a few really close friends. I think there could be a little circle of close friends. But I also think that those relationships that are not in the inner circle, those maybe I would call on the outer circle friendships or relationships, they're important too, because they give us the opportunity to practice. And it's going to sound ridiculous to make this illustration, but it's sort of like it is said that before you have a child, you practice on having a pet. And before you have a pet, you practice on having a plant. And in a certain way, when we're more emotionally involved with somebody, we can take more risks to be more vulnerable because it's safer and so on and so forth. We hurt the one we love sometimes, but it could also be in some ways harder because we're so emotionally connected that if someone says something to us in that circle, in our emotional being, it could like hurt our feelings more. We may tend to want to defend ourselves. So it's interesting to see that I won't take something personally if it doesn't matter to me. I won't make an assumption if it doesn't matter to me. These are principles I'm practicing. If I have enough of not taking it personally to those experiences that are less important to me, I'll be able to build up my stamina and to build my new muscle and to be strong enough to be able to then not take it personally with someone who is in the inner circle. So it is about practice, and sometimes the relationships that we're less emotionally attached to, and in a certain way we might even voice feeling like they're less significant, they can give us very great opportunities for learning lessons, and that's really what I wanted to say. So I do feel in both this more superficial relationship and in my most intimate relationship that I really am practicing not being defensive. But I wanted to articulate and say that the less significant, the less I value the relationship, the easier it is to not be defensive, and therefore it's a good place to practice. So it's good for your children to have the opportunity to practice. Let's say your child's playing a game and a child says, you cheated. But the child knows, your child knows, in fact, your child did not cheat. Instead of being defensive about it, just say, I know my truth. I hear what you're saying. Do you want to play or not? And then just move on. And if we can show our children, if teachers can show their students, if parents can show their children that we don't need to be attached to our point of view, because wars start from only holding on to our point of view. And a more peaceful way to coexist is there's a few different things. When it comes to politics and the division in our country right now, some might say, we can't speak about this. This is a topic that's off limits because we have such a different point of view and I don't want to fight about it, and that's one way to do it. Another might say, I can hear you as long as you can hear me, but we are also going to agree that we don't need to convince each other. And then just lead by modeling. This is my belief. You have the opposite belief. Who is living the life that seems more admirable? Who's living a life that's more fulfilling? Who's living a life where there's more of a value system that you want to follow? And then just lead from that position. So if we can learn to not defend our positions, but rather just live from the place that we are fulfilling our values and visions. And, in that way, we may be able to peacefully coexist even with people that we feel their value system isn't what our value system is. That's what diversity is. And it's more than tolerance. It's being inclusive and being able to impact each other because our similarities are still greater than our differences just by the fact that we're the same human race. And so I just wanted to share that the learning lesson that I had that was so significant was that I am walking my walk and talking my talk. I am not defending my position. It is helping me save a lot of energy, all these good things. And I just want to say in this particular situation, it was so easy because the relationship was a relationship that's less significant for me. So I didn't have as much ego involved and I didn't have as much emotionality involved. Having said that, I also want to say that I really am also not defending my position when I'm in the relationships that are the most significant. And I think it's because I practiced and I did build up that muscle. I did build up that stamina. And that reaction to defend, that comes from an old place in us where we feel like we're siblings and we don't want to be accused of doing what we didn't do and the other sibling did, or it just comes from an old place. But what it does is that for me, my experience clearly is that it takes me away from what the person's saying to me. And that is disrespectful to the person. And it's making my position more important than the other person's position. And I just need to check in with myself and be in my truth. And if I know that I really disagree with what was said, I can still say, I hear what you're saying. I got it. And then let it go. And the ability to let go is where freedom lives. Like all the energy that we waste when I get frustrated by waiting on the line or someone cutting me or driving and someone doesn't signal and all that energy, it's like I just don't want to waste energy. I'm tired and I want to cultivate energy and I want to be inspired by energy. And so my attitude is going to feed how I have energy or not. And so I'm choosing whenever I'm present to make sure that I have an attitude of gratitude and that I'm present, and I don't want to be a fighter. I want to be a person who's in peace, my own inner peace. And so I hear what you're saying. I got it. It's really a good phrase. And to teach your children to practice that skill in situations that are less emotionally charged and see if that works. So please let me know if this strategy and this particular way of speaking about this topic of not defending yourself is helpful. Visit me at learnwithmeremotely@gmail.com. Until next time, feel free to go to my author's page on Amazon, Dr. Mindy Shaw Paperbacks. Okay, be well.